On today's episode, I talk with Emily Green about using humor to ride the roller coaster of business ownership and being okay with walking away. I'm Julie B, and they don't teach this in business school. Hey there, I'm Julie B, and you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School, a podcast where we discuss business ownership lessons that are learned through experience, not in a classroom. For today's episode, I'm interviewing Emily Green, the founder and CEO of Grace Communications. I know that we're going to have a fun conversation today, and we're going to learn some things from her that will help us all on our business ownership journey. So, Emily, welcome to the show today. I'm really glad to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so first question, why don't you just give us a brief overview of Grace Communications, including what your role is in the business?
Sure. So I started Grace Communications about 4 years ago. Cannot believe it's been that long. It's flown by. And I really started it to provide, marketing support for small to medium-sized businesses with heart. So we always try to work with those businesses that are growing, but also very community minded, and they usually have some sort of philanthropic or giving back element to them. So that's one of the things that sets us apart. We do public relations, social media, event planning, and business development. And I am the CEO and founder. So I still work every day in my agency as well, and absolutely love all of the client, interfacing and getting to meet amazing people like you.
That's great, Emily. So one of my favorite questions to ask business owners is, what is your favorite part about being a business owner?
It's kind of like my favorite and my least favorite part. They're like the same, but I think it's never boring. Every day something different happens. So so on the good side of that, you just never know when this like amazing, exciting new opportunity is going to come your way. So that can just be thrilling. It sounds dramatic to say it that way, but I don't know how else to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you work so hard and then you get that email or you get that phone call or you meet this like perfect connection that you have chemistry with, and it leads to this thing that's just so beautiful. But then on the flip side, the same thing can happen where everything's going amazing. You have, this great relationship with the client, and then it can abruptly change. So you kind of like never quite know what each day is going to bring. Um, and I do love that, but I also think that's what drives a lot of entrepreneurs crazy, and definitely drives my husband crazy.
The uncertainty that each day
Yes.
brings, basically.
Yes,
Absolutely.
the roller coaster.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, after over 14 years in business, it's still a roller coaster. That's what one
Yeah.
thing that I tell a lot of business owners is the challenges you face, you get a bigger comfort zone, I think, for the challenges
Right.
that you face as you go. So
Yeah.
something that was really upsetting at this stage,
Yeah.
10 years from now, you'll be like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, we've got this covered. We've done this before. So,
Right.
there's a silver lining to those unpleasant surprises that come up
Very
as a
true.
business owner.
You can learn from all of them. So I try to have that mindset, and I think that's what's important is having the right mindset, looking at it as like something that I can overcome and learn from, not something that's a setback.
So how do you make sure you stay in that mind zone, or is there anything that you do to make sure that
Yes.
you keep that mindset up?
Yes. I like to use humor. And even if it's just making myself laugh, which you're not crazy if you don't answer yourself, right? So it's fine. But so my thing that I do, and I don't know exactly where it started, but I like to correlate business situations and things with dating, and it makes me laugh. And then I don't feel so bad about it. So like if a client ghosts me, I just think about all the Tinder dates that ghosted me, or that. So I don't know, I can almost always find some like funny situation that's dating that's similar, and I don't know, it just makes me feel better, and then I snap out of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah. I think humor. I understand that because there are days where all you can do is laugh. I mean, literally, like so
Right.
some things will happen, good things and bad things.
Yes.
Sometimes you're just so surprised on both ends of the spectrum. Literally, all you can do is laugh as a business
Yeah.
owner.
You can't like take it too seriously.
Absolutely, yeah. Life is short, and I think being a business owner, it's a real gift if you get to do it,
Hmm.
and you like doing it. It is not for everybody, but I think the people who really enjoy being a business owner really do see it as a gift because you get to have experiences that you wouldn't have working in corporate
Yeah,
America or
absolutely.
any other position. Now, I wanted to ask you one question I like to ask business owners as well is, are there any tasks or job duties that you have tried to outsource or delegate to somebody else that you have found it to be a really big challenge to actually delegate or outsource?
Yes. Um,
What's the biggest one?
um, Getting new clients. So the growth part, I actually late last year added a position to my agency to help with that, a client
Hmm.
relationship manager, and that has helped me a lot. But it's still one of those things that I feel like nobody has the passion for selling your business like you do.
Hmm.
So it's, you can hire lead generation companies, you can, ask people for referrals, you can do all that stuff. But I feel like ultimately a lot of it comes down to that persona that you have and kind of being present in that process. And I think it's also one of the things I love about my business too. So I might be like inadvertently causing that not to be delegated well because I like doing it
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
But that's probably been the hardest thing is getting that like outside support for growth. And um, I've still been able to grow really, really well. But I think that adding that position was kind of my way of recognizing that at some point referrals are great, but like you have to have a constant flow of new client leads and new business. You just
Hmm.
have to.
Yeah, I mean, without that, you're not going to be in business for very long. And it's
No.
interesting. I would say that answer is probably the most common answer that I get when I ask that question, and it's pretty much 100% from if you are in a service business, like a professional
Right.
service business. Almost every business owner that I've talked to over the past year and a half on this podcast, if they own an agency or
Yeah.
a staffing company, anything where it's a professional service, CPAs, that type of thing, um, that is they're always their biggest challenge because even
Hmm.
though you can try to separate as much as you possibly can, but
Right.
you are still the face of your company, and it's
Yeah.
very hard to delegate any of that.
Yeah, it is. But I'm still not giving up. I'm still working on it. And it's getting better. See that positive mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you have to keep with it and just and I think you said something earlier about how, nobody's going to sell the business like you do. And
Right.
that's very true because you can't expect employees, I think, to show up or
No.
contractors or, key partners to show up and be as passionate about your business as you are. I don't think that that's something that comes
No.
along with another person unless they're a business partner and then maybe, but
Right. Right.
absolutely.
Totally agree.
Hey, this is Julie B, and you're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School. I'm here today with Emily Green, the CEO and founder of Grace Communications. And we were just talking about how delegating some things are it's a really hard thing to do for business owners sometimes. And Emily, one thing I wanted to ask you, you're 4 years into business,
Mhm.
and I wondered, have you ever experienced burnout in business? And if you have, could you speak to that experience a little bit?
I have definitely experienced burnout. I would say my first 3 years were the worst with it. I've definitely gotten better. The biggest thing for me was setting boundaries, which You hear that everywhere. They always tell you to set boundaries. You hear the tone of my voice that I'm just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's very
Mm-hmm.
hard when you first start a business and you're trying to grow, to know even like what boundaries to set.
Mm-hmm.
There's no definite handbook for that. So for me, that was the hardest thing, is setting them and sticking to them with clients. Because with
Mm-hmm.
marketing, also, as you know, sometimes clients think you're just available 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to have a family life and, a personal life at all, that's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely affected me a lot my first year, especially. And I kind of took a hard look at what boundaries I needed to
Mm-hmm.
feel better so I could have that balance. And then also looking at the clients that I work with and setting clear expectations with them from the start with onboarding. And then clients that did not respect those boundaries, being okay with walking away, which is sounds harsh, but you have, like, in the long run, you have to protect your mental and emotional health as a business owner. And it's very hard to do if you have clients who don't respect your boundaries.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but in my 14 years running a marketing agency, I have had a handful of, I would say, a handful of clients that have been, downright, I would say, emotionally abusive, have said some really, I mean, and one client said it to me as soon as we signed the contract, and I actually canceled the contract right away because it legitimately scared me.
Gosh, I'm
Like I had
sorry.
somebody straight up threaten to show up at my door with a shotgun if it didn't work
Oh
out.
my gosh.
After we, yeah, I'm not even making, like, I can't make that up.
No, that's so scary.
I so I canceled that contract right away because there
Good
was
call.
no, yeah. What boundary have you, is there one, boundary you've set that you've really been able to stick with? Um, and how have you, can you kind of walk through like how you came up with that boundary and how you stick with it?
I think it's setting quote unquote like office hours.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really, really key. And when I first started, I felt guilty doing that because I was like, well, I'm doing PR, I'm doing social media, and that what if there's an emergency and it's outside office hours? Like, what's going to happen? But
Mm-hmm.
you kind of at some point have to define, okay, what are like true emergencies and what are just kind of something that someone wants done, but it could wait.
Mm-hmm.
True emergencies for me, like, I will still take calls and texts outside of office hours because when you're in, especially with PR, you kind of have to do that. But I think that's where the learning part comes with clients too, is helping them understand what is a true emergency
Mm-hmm.
and kind of before it gets to that point, helping them help themselves. So they're
Mm-hmm.
not constantly thinking that they need to come to you for every single thing. Maybe they don't need to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And as my husband said, he's like, you really, like, when I first started, I almost created like too much clinginess with some clients.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't on purpose, but I think I was trying to establish those relationships. So I would just, always instantly respond. I was always available. Even breaking scope of contract, I would just say yes to
Yeah.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that created a atmosphere of no boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So that I kind of created it myself, and I
Yeah.
didn't do it on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but it was fixable. It just was a little bit painful to fix over the years.
Yeah, and it's hard when you have clients that you have trained to expect a certain level of
Right.
service that's way beyond scope. And then when you
Yeah.
realize that and you have to kind of back up and have those, okay,
Yeah.
we are way outside of scope here. I am, I need to no longer do this, and this.
Right.
A lot of time, I mean, I've been in the position myself where clients have, they canceled because
Yeah.
they were used to a
Yeah.
certain level of service and they weren't getting it
Absolutely.
anymore. And so they can't,
Yep.
that's a hard lesson to learn, but I think most
Yeah.
service focused business owners eventually learn it.
It
Sometimes
is
I'm still
hard.
learning it.
I know it's hard. I had one in particular, and I mean, they were like family to me in a way. We worked together for 3 years, and I spent so much time with them helping grow their business. But when I set those boundaries, they did not respect it, and they honestly they did not want to work with me with those boundaries.
Hmm.
So it's hard, but like you just have to sometimes to get to that next level in your business, you have to do it.
You do. And it's it's either, well, and I think, you said the something about what, distinguishing between a true emergency and what isn't. And I usually call
Mm-hmm.
the, what isn't a true emergency is a false fire. It's not, it seems like it's
That's a
on,
good way.
yeah, it seems like it's on fire, but it's not actually on fire. And
Yeah.
it's hard when you're in an industry like you are in, when, things change,
Yeah.
can literally change by the second, quite
Right.
frankly. And having those boundaries, that's really, you know, good. It's good on you to be able to have that and practice that regularly.
Yep. Work in progress. I feel like that's always going to be a problem. So, yeah.
You're listening to They Don't Teach This in Business School, and I'm the host, Julie B. Today, I'm talking with Emily Green, the CEO and founder of Grace Communications. And Emily, I want to ask you, how do you define success for yourself?
I think success for me, I'm very goal oriented. So I do like to set goals and achieve them. But beyond that, it's a feeling of making a difference. So when I feel like I'm making an impact with clients, like I've helped them, grow their business from X to Y to Z or whatever. And with my personal life, with my family, when we're able to, buy our house or do certain things, I think that to me is success in kind of like a financial professional way. But then on the flip side, what I'm trying to do better about and over the last couple of years is having goals and thinking of success as like being happy and healthy too. So for me, it's do I have a life where I have time to go hike and explore parks like I love? Do
Mhm.
I have time to, spend with my husband at night and my daughter? Like, can I take my dogs for a walk? Like stuff like that. Because when you get too focused, I think on like those monetary and some of the usual goals, I feel like you can set yourself up for actually not being very happy and maybe having success with that, but your life is just kind of unfulfilling.
I think that when you define success only by goal achievement, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Right.
Because if you're, I'm sure you are, I already know you're like most high achievers, where when you achieve a goal, you may take a day to feel good about it. And then the next thing that comes up is, okay, what's next? And
Exactly.
if you're constantly in that, what's next? If you only define success by goals, achievement, you're
Right.
never going to feel successful, because you're always asking what's next. I think
Yeah.
that's something I kind of learned last year. And so, yeah, you have to be able to define success outside of your goals as well. And it usually does come into, a feeling of settled or being able to do certain things that you want to
Right.
do. Those are all very important as well. And I think, that's really where the good stuff is with success.
Yes. And I want to have hobbies outside of my business. So I'm learning how to play drums. That's my big thing right now.
That's awesome. I played a little drums. I've I
Oh, awesome. Let's
That's
let's
so
start
much
a
fun.
band. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it's like, how do you play drums at a house quietly? You get the electronic set. But no, yeah, and I think hobbies are so important to have. I force myself, even though I think I don't have time, if I don't force myself to have something that I do that isn't work related, I will do all work, not all the time. It'll be all work and then spending time with my wife. But that'll be like all I do. So I force
Yeah.
myself to have hobbies, or at least do like one volunteer
Yeah.
have a volunteer group I'm a part of, because that forces me to get away from work. Like I have to force myself to do that. So yeah, that's really interesting that you've learned how to play drums. What are some other hobbies you've done over the years?
Well, I love working out. I used to be a competitive runner in college, so I always loved running, but I can't run like I used to. So it's
Mm.
more like a slow jog. And I love going hiking with my dogs. So
Mhm.
that's kind of exploring parks and stuff like that.
Got it.
Um, yeah.
Great. Well, listen, Emily, as we're coming to the end of the conversation here, I just have one other question I want to ask you. If you had taken a class on business ownership before becoming a business owner, what's the one thing you would have wanted to learn from that class?
It's kind of what we talked about a little bit already, but I feel like the thing that no one told me, or maybe I just didn't pay attention to this, but like, how do you protect your emotional and mental health? Um, you'll hear like, you got to be really tough. You got to be really like mentally strong to be a business owner. But there's, at least that I've seen, there's not a whole lot of like talk about how do you do that. So like figuring out and having like a course or something
Mm-hmm.
that helps you kind of with actual like practical ways that you can protect yourself and kind of be like your own hype person and cheerleader, because it's very lonely being a business owner sometimes, especially when you are first getting started. um, and I think you have to be kind of like, not saying again like a split personality, but like you
Mm-hmm.
have to be your own best friend with it. And that can be very difficult on the days where you're on the low part of the roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's really where I feel like I have struggled more than anything, because it's, in my opinion, the hardest part is just keeping that positivity and not letting the setbacks or opportunities get you down, and staying strong in what you believe in.
Got it. Well, Emily, listen, I really enjoyed our conversation today, and I know that the business owners listening will as well. I just want to thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
And that's a wrap on this episode. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future conversations. I'm Julie B., and they don't teach this in business school.